Malaysia started implementing the National Service Program back in December 2003. It was a government effort to encourage the bonding of multiracial, multicultural youths who are the future leaders of the country. The program lasted for 3 months, and the youths usually get sent to different parts of the country's remote forests for entry-level military training. Selection begins after the youths 18 of age finishes their final high school exam. The selection of individuals are at random, and like the Hunger Games, volunteers were rare. And everyone dreaded the day that they have to find out online if they were chosen and are forced to whichever location they are assigned to undergo harsh disciplinary militaristic regimes, away from the comforts of modern living and connectivity of the internet. Unless you were physically disabled, insane, or having a severe medical condition, it is more or less compulsory for you to go if you were chosen. Although this program seems to have a very positive objective of developing a patriotic, independent, confident, and united younger generation, numerous controversies plagued the program, and rumors are that the government covered up multiple incidences to prevent their brainchild from being cast in a negative light. There were cases of recruits going missing, random cases of mass food poisonings, trainees being stalked, molested, abused and raped, and even killed by the instructors. There are even weirder rumors of trainees who were possessed by spirits. My name is Zaid, and this is my story. I was selected to go for the National Service Program last year. I remember my reluctance to go, but there wasn't really any choice, as the punishment for abandoning the program was either a hefty fine or worse, 14 days in prison. The first day of camp had an air of apprehension. It was an all-boys camp in the middle of rural Sarawak rainforest. The showers and the toilets were in a separate building, if you can even call it a building. The toilet was a makeshift hole in the ground, and you could not tell where the actual natural soil of the forest ground ended and the layers of defecation started. The walls were flimsy, rotten planks, and zinc roofs made sure that the uncomfortably humid and hot atmosphere were amplified 100 times. The instructor had a grim demeanor and treated all new recruits strictly and harshly. One of the meeker-looking boys was even quietly crying that first few nights. It was rough, but I think I was doing rather okay. Besides, it was military training. What did you expect? About 4 days into the program, I bonded with 2 other trainees in the camp, Wing and Ravi. We played the same video games and watched the same movies. It was nice having someone in the camp to get my mind off the awful conditions. We didn't get a lot of downtime. The schedule was tightly run and consisted of marching exercises, physical courses, team building, nature survival activities, and meals. On the 7th day into the program, we were jarringly woken up at 3 a.m. in the morning with loud gongs and water sprays, and were marched off into formation outside the barracks. After being told to gear up, we were told that we would be taken deep into the forest in a single file formation. The last person on the line would be left behind throughout the trail at intervals, effectively stranding us alone in the middle of the forest. You will stay in the spot you were left in until we come back for you, the CO explained. If you leave your spot, I cannot guarantee your safety. There is no doubt wild animals all around, and apart from that, There are other things lurking about. You will stay silent throughout the whole exercise, but beware. The officer's visage suddenly turning grim. If you hear your name being called out, do not respond to it or even turn to look, especially if it's in trees. Keep your head down until we come get you. He clicked on his torchlight and held it to his face, giving him a comically ghostly appearance. There are evil spirits and ghosts lurking about, and the legendary Pontianak has been seen around these parts. For those who are unfamiliar with Malaysian folklore, Pontianak is an undead evil spirit, female, with long fingernails and hair, and can actually fly and feed on blood of the living, a Malaysian version of a vampire. The CO was obviously trolling us and was trying to give us a good scare, but I can see some of the guys were visibly shaken as they chuckled nervously, attempting to put on a brave face. After a 20-minute hike, it was my turn to be left behind. Wing left us about 5 minutes ago, and Ravi was next. I waved goodbye to Ravi as the formation marched forward. I sat down and tried to make the most out of the situation. I mean, how bad could it be? I shifted my focus away from the departing formation and started to take in my surroundings. The forest came alive as soon as I lost sight of the group. I could hear sounds of scurrying feet, flapping members, wings, and of course insects sending out thoracic vibrations in an attempt to attract a mate. I closed my eyes and relaxed and allowed the atmosphere to seep into me. I've never experienced nature like this before, and it was as if all my senses were somehow enhanced and opened. It was serene and tranquil. It was not more than what could have been 5 minutes when all of a sudden the noises of the forest ceased. Every single flutter and pulse drained away. A few seconds later, I heard a distant scream. It sounded like it came from the direction where the group marched off to. I stood up and peeked my ears as if to turn on any extra sensory ability that I had. Nothing. The night remained silent. An approaching pair of footsteps peppered the silence. It was fast and frantic, stumbling a few paces, but coming towards me. I shone my torchlight towards the commotion and I saw a shadowy figure bowling towards me. I felt my neck prick and goosebumps riddled my arms as the shivering ray of light caught the figure. It was running at top speed towards me. I couldn't move until it became clear that it was actually Ravi. His face was pale, either from exhaustion or terror, I couldn't tell. He lunged at me at the last few steps and tried to speak, but all he could muster was some unintelligible grunts and asthmatic draws of breaths. Whoa, chill out, dude. What the heck? We're gonna get punished if they catch you here. We're not supposed to leave our spots, remember? Did you see? You what? I mocked, trying to put on a brave face. Did you see it? See what? I don't know. It was floating in the trees. What the? You trying to scare me? Go back to your spot, man. We're gonna get into trouble. It was a human head floating in the trees. Man, shut up. I'm serious. It was floating in the trees. It had long hair and there was stuff coming out of its neck and oh my god. At this point, he was delirious. I grabbed Ravi's shoulder and shook him. Dude, calm down. I'm sure It was the CEO trying to scare us, man. Ravi's eyes settled down in realization. Oh, shit. Oh, damn. Hey, I thought I told you guys to stay where you are until we come get you. A commanding voice bellowed behind us. We turned around and saw our doom. I'm sorry, sir. I think Ravi here got spooked by some floaty thingy. Suddenly the officer didn't look so sure of himself, but he quickly regained his composure and told us that it was time to march back to camp, and someone fell sick and the exercise had to be cut short. Rest assured, you two disobeyed instructions. That's 2 days toilet duty. I silently cursed. It was no use protesting, plus I couldn't sell out my new friend, so I defeatedly accepted my unfair punishment. Back at the camp, we learned that it was Wing who actually fell sick. One of the officers tasked with retrieving the campers found Wing unconscious on the ground and suspected that he fainted due to exhaustion. There were some strange red markings on his neck and chest area. None of the campers went back to sleep, as none of them could. Wing was back on his feet later that day, but he looked sickly and weak. His eyes were vacant and he kept scratching on his neck and chest. He was given permission to not join the day's activities by the camp doctor and stayed in bed the whole day. I'm telling you, man, it was not the officers, Ravi whispered, changing his mind as he scrubbed the sink. That again, man, I'm in this mess because of you, Ravi. You better scrub my share too. I really saw a floating head yesterday, and I'm not sure how it's connected to Wing. Did you see him, man? Shut up! I want to make it for dinner. I'm telling you. Shut up! I hushed Ravi. He bared his teeth at me and mouthed an obscenity, but retreated to his punishment, defeated. Halfway through our punishment, Ravi stopped and stared out. There was Wing, standing about 30 feet away, facing the jungle. He still had that blank expression on his face, absent-mindedly scratching his neck. Wing, Ravi whispered. No response. Wing, Ravi whispered again. I smacked Ravi in the back of his head. Why the hell are you whispering? Call out to him. I'm scared. I got up and pulled Ravi with me. Wing! I hollered. He remained on the spot and continued his incessant scratching. I approached him. A strange feeling of dread filled me as Ravi followed behind me, tugging on my shirt. I twirled my arm, shaking off his grabs. Wing! I called out again, voice slightly shaken as I placed my hands on his shoulder, turning him around. His eyes were still vacant and his neck. My God, his neck. A cascading accordion of skin was hanging off of his neck, and deep crimson wet blood was smeared all over his collars. His fingers were crusted with old dry blood and moist at the same time with fresh flowing blood as he scratched again and again. I shook him, trying to snap him back. Wing! Wing! Ravi started to sob, but he joined me in trying to jolt our friend back to reality. And just like that, Wing stopped. As if suddenly being defibrillated back to life by shock pedals, he began to let out a howl of agony. He held up his bloodied hands and began to let out an indescribable episode of bawling and screams of pain. Tears rolled down his face, leaving a clear trail along his mangled neck. He started to choke, and greenish bile bubbled out of his mouth and nose. He dropped on all fours and began to regurgitate, arcing his back like a cat. Both of us were petrified. We could only watch in horror as Wing vomited chunks of greenish, milky substance onto the jungle soil. And after what felt like hours, Wing dropped on his sides. A few recruits and officers came running, and Wing was transported to the medical bay. We were angrily instructed to wash up and prepare for dinner as if nothing has happened. There was an ominous air in the canteen that evening. Everyone kept their heads down, and there were whispers, but hastily gobbled down their meal all the same. Up until now, Ravi and I hadn't said a word to each other. Ravi was visibly shaken, and his hand had a slight tremor. His eyes shifted frantically. "Ravi," I called lowly. He looked at me as if he just saw me. What? We have to find Wing." "What? Why?" For some stupid teenage reason, I had to find Wing and find out what happened to him or what he saw. "We just have to. Come on." Ravi was staring off into the distance, his food untouched. "We'll sneak out of the dorm tonight at about 2 a.m. Ravi nodded. "Cool, I'll meet you outside at the med bay." I could not sleep that night. Wing's contorted face was stuck in my head, and I could almost smell that putrid liquid that he puked out. 1:56. I sat up and snuck out of my bed. The forest was unnaturally quiet. There were outdoor lights installed on the side of the buildings, and I was careful to avoid them just in case someone was walking by. The med bay was 3 buildings away from my dorm, and I stuck with the shadows and kept on the lookout for Ravi. 2:13. Ravi was nowhere to be found. "That little chicken," I muttered under my breath. Just then I heard a muffled scraping noise coming from the side of the med bay. The sound of glass on metal. I edged slowly towards the sound, towards the left side of the med bay. There were columns of old colonial-era windows and with panes of glass fitted on metal bracings on the facade of the building. I noticed then on the 4th or 5th column, I couldn't remember, a few panes were missing, and there was a trail of glistening liquid on the lower part of the window. I did not know what came over me, but I moved towards the gap. "I should be getting the heck out of here," I thought to myself, but I peeked into the window anyway. I immediately see Wing, or at least I thought it was Wing. I see a moving lump of blanket on the bed in the middle of the room. A waft of pungent odor permeated throughout the room. I could make out shuffling movements under the blanket and soft moans and grunts. Then I saw Wing's face as it emerged from the blanket. It looked like he was dreaming as he had his eyes closed, but the rest of his body was writhing in silent agony. And there was something else in the blankets with him. A second head, half hidden by the covers, emerged around Wing's neck. Long, flowing hair crept into sight. Did Wing have a girl snuck into camp? For a moment, I felt I shouldn't be watching any of this. Then there was something weird. Something off about the second figure. I couldn't quite place it, but as I watched the figure snuggle up to Wing's neck passionately, it kinda just stopped. Then it rose. The blanket fell off the bed, and to my utter horror, I saw it. It was a floating head. It had female facial features, long silky hair, and it had no body. Its esophagus hung exposed from her neck down, connected to a fleshy bag that I assumed was the stomach. And then there were the exposed, multifold intestines, from small to large, glistening wet from bodily fluids and blood. My brain halted and my throat clenched. I lost control of my bladder as warm liquid spread down my pants. The head creature looked down on Wang, and its mouth curled into a malicious smile. Its entrails slided across Wang's arm, causing hives of minuscule boils to form, pop, and green pus to ooze out. Wang's body twisted and turned in a futile protest. It was just feeding on Wang's neck, and blood trickled down its neck. And slowly the creature turned to leave, turning to face the window. The window where my face was peeking in. I was transfixed, caught in its hypnotic haze, filled with disgust and dread. Its face was that of a beautiful girl, and it floated gently towards me, its eyes fixed on me, captivating me. And all I could do was half-heartedly raise my hands defensively, but I wanted her to have me, to feast on my blood. I thought to myself, I should give myself to her. I need to give myself to her. She's so beautiful. I wonder what it feels like when she consumes me. Before the floating horror could reach me, I felt a force knock me sideways, jolting me out of my hypnotic stupor. It was Ravi, his face white with fear. "What are you doing?" he shouted. "Run," I whispered. The both of us got up without hesitation, bolted towards the dorms. A sad, bone-chilling wail resonated behind us as we ran. The wail turned into shrieks of maniacal laughter. It was as if someone dumped a bucket of ice water onto my back when I heard it. Its face then was suddenly hovering beside me, keeping up with my pace in the most uncanny way. It cackled and said mockingly in Malay,
"Mana kau pergi? Temani aku. Saya berasa begitu sepi di sini. Adakah saya cantik?"
It taunted me, asking me to stay with her, and if she was pretty. I let out a scream of desperation and ran even harder. Ravi, being the faster runner, held open the entrance and frantically beckoned me to run faster. I literally dove through the threshold and heard the door slam. And almost immediately that thing crashed into the door, screaming in delight as it hurled itself over and over again at the door. Ravi sat at the foot of the door, eyes wide in terror. The rest of the recruits started to wake from the ruckus. None of them could make sense as to what's going on. 2 recruits on the floor, one frozen in terror while the other peed his pants, and something crashing repeatedly into the door, accompanied by blood-curdling laughter. No one dared to move. After what seemed like an eternity, there was complete silence. The thing was gone, just like that. I held up my arm and there were boils and pus. It was hard holding down my dinner as the smell of it was overbearing. Ravi was rooted to the spot, until he fell asleep. Morning came and nothing was more comforting than the warmth of the morning sun. Ravi recounted the night's events to the officers and they looked oddly calm. They discussed among themselves in a hushed tone and decided it was best to send us home, allowing us to drop out of the program altogether. It's been a few months since I came home. We never found out what in the world was the thing that terrorized us, and Wing told me that he felt healthy. None of the boils left any scars. Ravi sounded normal, even over the phone. I guess I'm glad it's over for them. I can't go out after sundown anymore. You see, every night it would be at my window, giggling, hovering, waiting.